So yesterday we completed introduction all about Azure fundamentals. We saw what is cloud computing. Then we saw different cloud models. Actually, we revised. Okay, different cloud models. Then consumption based model. What is capex and opex? Capital expenditure and operational expenditure. Then cloud pricing models, how they price the cloud services. Okay, then type of cloud services, in which we studied about infrastructure as a service, where Azure provides the complete infrastructure and it gives a freeness to you that you can set everything related to storage, network, security, everything. Then shared responsibility model. Okay, what responsibility is shared by whom? What is shared by the customer? What is shared by Microsoft? In all those models, or you can say not models, the service types, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. Okay, then we look onto Azure accounts and its physical architecture. So this was physical architecture, where for an individual you can create an account, then create the subscription, then resource group, then resources. Later on, we saw that for organizational purposes, you can create management groups. This is a free account we studied. Then physical infrastructure. In physical infrastructure, we studied about regions, availability zones. There is a Azure region inside which there are a number of availability zones, and inside the availability zone there are data centers. Then regional pairs. We saw regional pairs, how regional pair works. Then management infrastructure. What is a resource group? Inside the resource group, basic building block is service or resource, right? So we create a service inside resource group, and then we create a resource group inside subscription. Then kind of subscriptions you can create, like different environments. You can create dev subscription, test subscription, production subscription. So resources are organized accordingly in these subscriptions. Like in dev subscription, you will be deploying the application in dev resources. In test subscription or stage subscription, test subscription is also called a stage subscription. Okay, you can deploy the application in the stage or test, then you may proceed to the production, and each subscription is separated. Okay, they have a boundary. Then Azure management group. So if you are working in a company, then company may have different departments, human resources, IT, marketing, different and departments. So they create a management group according to those departments and projects. Inside human resources, there are apps as a management group. You can see here this. Then inside IT, there are production, and there are different projects in geographical regions. So they have divided the management groups as per geographical regions, right? So you can divide management group as you want, or as a company wants. Okay. Then today we will be moving to Azure architecture and services. So in
I had questions in other, like in recap part. Actually, for a free account, we have any already a test environment, or can we use like development and production?
No, actually, by default, Azure will create a free subscription for you, free trial subscription. Its name is free trial subscription.
Okay.
Okay, it will create for you by default.
So test environment, like development environment and production environment, only available for like paid subscription.
Yes. So
For
if you have running, if you are running an organization, then you must be having a enterprise level subscription. So in that enterprise level subscription, you are allowed to create management groups. Okay.
Okay.
So in when you have the access to those management groups, then inside that you can create different environments. Here, as it is a like a trial, and you are practicing the services here, so maybe you cannot create different environments in a free trial.
Okay. So actually, in like a demo class, same question I have asked to you. So like, still I have doubt like, in free subscription can we use your all services? Mm, like,
See, they have
like when we use.
all services, like, as if it is similar to that, they have provided you $200. So
Okay.
if if there is, say, there is no aid provided by Azure, okay, no $200, then you will be using the services and you are paying the bills, right? Now
Right. Okay.
now what happens is that limited means it's not like that you can create a machine of $1,000 in $200 aid, right? So they will not let you create a machine of cost $1,000, because in free subscription you are having $200 only, right?
Right. Yeah.
So before creating that $1,000 machine, you have to upgrade your subscription. There is a button of upgrade on the left hand side in the
Yes, sir.
portal. Yeah.
Pay as you go button. Yes.
Yes,
Great.
you have to upgrade your subscription to pay as you go, so that when you use any of the machine or anything which is beyond that limit, then they can charge you. They will, like, for after opting pay as you go, they have got a confirmation from you that you have allowed them to deduct the charges from your credit card, right?
Right. Yes.
So that's why after that only, after upgrading only, you can create that much big machines. Okay. So inside any machine which is inside that, inside $200, or like say $10, $15, $20, $50, you can create easily, no worries. But that's why they call limited, because you cannot create everything, because some services are like that, they are costing $1,000 maybe.
Yes.
So in
Yes.
free aid, you cannot create that machine.
Right.
And
Yes.
that is not needed here, right?
Yes, sir. That is not needed here.
Yeah.
For practice purpose, actually,
So
we require.
yeah, so this $200 is enough for us
Yes, sir. Right.
to
Yeah.
practice. Yeah. So that is the thing. Now we move to Azure architecture and services. So here we start the compute services. Okay. Now about the compute services, it is similar to the one you are using on your end. Like you are using a laptop. We are connected through Zoom, right? And in your laptop may be having some compute capability. Maybe you are using 8 GB of RAM in your laptop, maybe it's a 16 GB. If you are using your organizational laptop, mostly they provide you 16 GB RAM. And apart from that, you may be having a hard disk. So maybe it's a 500 GB or 1 TB, or someone may be having a SSD drive, like SSD disk, solid state drive, which is very fast. Okay. Some of you may be having hard disk drive, HDD, standard HDD. Okay. So in my laptop there is a SSD, solid state drive. So it loads very quickly. Solid state drive, like it's you can say it's a upgrade to the SSD. Earlier there were standard hard disk drives. Now they come up with SSD RAM and SSD disk also. So that SSD disk is doesn't depends on that magnetic. So earlier HDD, it was a magnetic tape inside that hard drive. So if you have seen any hard drive, when you are using a desktop or anything, there is a big hard drive. Like you can detach that hard drive from the computer and you can see it inside. So when you open it, inside that there are magnetic tapes. Okay. So nowadays that technology is not used. because in that technology, like if you start uploading the data to the hard drive or anything, it starts very slowly, then it completes in some time. So you maybe take some time to upload 1 GB of data, but in solid state drive, it's very fast. It's like it can upload in 10 seconds or 5 seconds 1 GB of data. So these are compute services. So you may be using at your end also, and you are having total control on your system. You can install any operating system on your laptop. You can install a Linux, you can install a Windows, uh, any system, any operating system. You can upgrade the operating system. You may have Windows 10, Windows 11. So that is a complete control to you, right? So similar to that, Azure is also providing compute services in which they give you total control. They will give you total control for the operating system. You can upgrade the operating system at the time you want if you not opt for default updates. Now when we create a virtual machine, we opt for some things, right? I'll show you. When we create a virtual machine, you opt for some of the things, right? So I may opt for, okay, I want a default update for the system. So what Azure will do, they will update when there is an update. Okay, now what happens is that in this case, company doesn't agree. So maybe I am having a company and I am running some simple software in a virtual machine. Now for that virtual machine, if I choose to update the operating system, okay, just a second. So Azure is providing me a virtual machine similar to the one which you are having at your end. This is a virtual machine. Now here you maybe have a operating system. First thing is operating system. OS disk plus operating system in that. Then second thing is you may choose for some network. Then third thing is data disk. Then while creating, you must be selecting some capacity. Maybe it may be a 4-core, 6-core, 2-core GPU. So these are the things you will select while creating a virtual machine. Now here they are providing you the complete control for operating system, network, data disk, everything. They will only manage this this virtual machine. Means if any issue happens to the virtual machine, okay, so we saw that shared responsibility model.
Yes.
So we saw that shared responsibility model.
Yes.
This one.
Yeah.
This one. So here, infrastructure as a service. So virtual machine comes under infrastructure as a service. So customer is responsible for data, information, devices, accounts and identities, directory structure, application, network control, operating system. Till here, customer has the responsibility to manage all these things. Now physical host means the host to which your virtual machine through which your virtual machine can be connected. That host is maintained by Azure, or Azure is responsible for that host. Then physical network, there may be a physical network through which your machine is connected in that public cloud. Okay, so for that network, Azure is responsible, and Azure is also responsible for the data center where the servers are there. So they are responsible for data center and the servers. So maybe for you it's a virtual machine, but for them, for cloud provider, it's not virtual. They are having data center somewhere. So it's physical for them. It's not a virtual. So they are maintaining those physical things, physical host, physical network, physical data center, which they are having at their end. Rest, everything you are managing here. So that is a shared responsibility model. So that's why I said that you may have OS disk plus OS, then data disk, then RAM, GPU, compute capability. So everything is provided by so physical infrastructure is provided by Azure, and inside that, whatever the configurations are there, basically configuration of virtual machine is handled by customer. Who are the customers? Us. Okay, configuration of VM is handled by customers. So that is a virtual machine or a compute service. Total control over the operating system. Second thing, the ability to run custom software. What you can do? You can run a custom software. Second thing, run a custom software. Azure provided me the virtual machine. I can run a custom software. Third thing, they are saying to use custom hosting configuration. Now, what is custom hosting configuration? Custom hosting. Now you are having a application inside your virtual machine. Application. Now there are the users who can use your application, maybe your clients and their users, right? So you have to provide a custom hosting. Like I created some website for my class. Okay, so something maybe there is a hosting name for that class. Something www.xyz.com or something else, maybe. Okay, there may be any hosting name. So you can create this custom hosting and you can integrate this custom hosting name with your application so that your user, there will be some users of that client for which you have provided the application, for who you have provided the application. What they will do? They will visit this custom hosting, and this custom hosting will take them to application. So you can decide or create custom hosting. Then an Azure virtual machine gives you a flexibility of virtualization without having to buy and maintain physical hardware. Now you on your on site, if you want to create virtual machines, then you must be having a big server or big machine. Then inside that, you must be having some hypervisor software. or VMware, sorry, not hypervisor, VMware. Now in that big machine, this is some server or machine. Server or machine. What kind of large compute capability? Okay. So this is a machine. Now I have installed a VMware in this inside this server. And what I'll do? I'll create different machines over that VMware software. So this VMware let me create different machines of different capacities. So these are different VMs created on hypervisor. But for that, you need a big server or infrastructure to create these virtual machines here on your on-premises VM. So this is your on-premises server, and here you have installed a VMware software, and VMware software is provided by many companies. Can you answer any one VMware software provided by any company? Hello? Can anyone answer that? Any VMware software? Oracle VirtualBox. This is an example of that VMware. So
So
you need,
this is a VMware provider.
yes.
Oracle
So
VBox.
yes, so like you have a laptop, right?
Right. Yeah.
So now you have to run some application in a virtual machine. Now you have a Windows laptop. Now what you want a Linux machine inside your laptop. How can you create a Linux machine inside your laptop? You will be using a VMware software.
So this means like when we create a virtual machine
Mhm.
for Linux environment, in that
Mhm.
case we required Oracle VBox. So
Mhm.
in that case we create through the Oracle VBox.
Yes. You can just go to Oracle VirtualBox website and you can simply download VirtualBox 7.0. And when you install this, you can simply go and create n number of machines, n number of virtual machines where you can host different website or web application. So this is provided by Oracle VMbox is provided by Oracle. Similarly, there are other companies also who provide this VMware software.
So this provides for like Windows and Linux, Mac, all or for only Linux.
So there are
Windows, yes,
versions. See,
yes, yeah, Windows also they provide,
presently VirtualBox runs on Windows, Linux, Mac OS, Solaris, and supports a large number of guest operating system.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. So once you click on download, it will ask you want it for Windows, you want it for Linux, you want it for Mac OS. So it will ask.
Okay, yes.
So here you have to arrange a server for that. If you want virtual machines, you want to host different application inside a machine. So you want a big server. there is a cost involved in that. Here what you can do, by default this virtual machine provides you. Now when we create a virtual machine, we'll choose an image, like which image we want to look upon, and maybe it can be a different image. So image, you will be choosing an image to install the operating system. So maybe that that image you can choose, I want a machine which should have a virtual box in it. So by default, a machine, you will be creating a machine which will already be having a virtual box in it, so that you can create virtualization inside your Azure machine or Azure virtual machine. So by default, they will be providing. So you don't have to arrange this server machine. You don't have to install VMware, then create different virtual machines. Here directly in your virtual machine in Azure, you can choose virtual machine like that. I want a virtual machine with a virtual box. You will be getting that. Then scale VMs in Azure. Now, what is scaling? I tell you, just let you know quickly. Now, can you see the diagram?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I already created it earlier. So I'm opening that diagram only because creating in that, then it will take time. So I'll explain you here. So say you have got some client and you have some application to be hosted, and he asks you to host a web application. So what you will do, you will create a virtual machine. Now there is a client and it may have some users, and what happens, you created virtual machine, you have the application inside your virtual machine. Then what happens, your client says, not your client, uh, when the users are using the virtual machine or that a particular application, what happens, suddenly the request count increases. Say in 1 month it was 100. Okay, next month it may be 1000, 10,000, 1 lakh request. Maybe the customer size increased for that client, his business is booming, so the customer or the request will increase. Now here what you have to do, you have to, when you create a virtual machine, what you have to do, you have to arrange. Now here users are coming, 100 requests are there. Now you have created now one machine. Say your client says, my user count is 100, or maybe 100 or 10,000 users. So what you have to arrange here in virtual machine, you will create four, like say I've created four different virtual machines with same configuration. And what I did, I created a load balancer here. Now this load balancer feature is will be provided by Azure only, or load balancer service. So what will it will do, so when 100 requests comes, it will divide these requests. Means 25 requests it will give to one machine, 25 to other, 25 to third, 25 to fourth. Now I have created four machines. What will happen if the request increases? Maybe 10,000 requests or 1 lakh requests. So if my virtual machine is having compute capability to handle 25 requests, then it will ask for more machines, because load balancer will not send the data to the machine because there are no machines. So you have to create more machines. then you have to install the application in those machines, right? So it's a hectic work to do to create different machines for the same configuration. Then what you can do? So Azure provides one service that is called virtual machine scale set. Now, this virtual machine scale set, by default, it will create number of VMs, identical VMs. So when you choose virtual machine scale set service, what it can do, while choosing, you may ask it to create 3 virtual machines or 5 virtual machines. And by default, this scale set comes with a scaling feature. What is scaling feature? Now, request count from my client users increases day by day. So it will scale the machine automatically. Means if I choose for 3 VMs, then if the request count increases and I have a scale set with this virtual machine or scaling feature, then it will increase the virtual machine, the count of virtual machine. It may create a 4th virtual machine, it may create a 5 virtual machine. And also, by default, I don't have to opt for load balancer separately. This virtual machine scale set will also provide me load balancer. These virtual machines will be by default load balanced. Means load balancer will divide the request equally between these machines. So say there are 1,25,000 users, 25,000 users, then 25,000, and each virtual machine capacity is 25,000. So this load balancer will divide 25,000 requests to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will cater all 1,25,000 requests. Now what happens in, as this comes with a scaling feature, so if count increases from 1,25,000 to 1,50,000, so you will be needing one more machine, because the compute capability of this machine is only 25,000 requests. So load balancer will not send the request until scale set is a feature, until scale set creates another virtual machine to cater other request. So that is the feature Azure provides. So that's why it is saying that Azure comes with a scaling feature. Virtual machine, it creates with a it comes with a scaling feature. You can choose virtual machine scale set service, and you are free. You don't have to worry about scaling feature. You don't have to worry about request. You don't have to worry about load balancing. It will do everything. So on premises, what you have to do, you have to create a backup. You have to create a backup plan, because once the request size increases, what you will do, you must be having some backup to scale your virtual machines. You might need another server on premises, right? But here it is completely handled by Azure. They will increase the count of virtual machine. Now what happens, my customer says, okay, from morning 9 to evening 9, I am having this much customers, but after 9 p.m. in the night, the customer counts decrease to 100. Now what this scaling feature will do, it will descale the machine. It will delete the 5th one, it will delete the 4th one, it will delete, it will. So now by default, if you have chosen 3, so that is the minimum count. It will run on its minimum count. So after night 9 p.m, you won't be able, they won't charge you for VM4 and VM5 till morning 10, because after 10 a.m the request count increases. So again it will scale, and for 10 to 9 it will charge for 4 and 5 also, and it will charge you for these virtual machines only. It will not charge you for load balancer, it will not charge you for scale set. It is by default provided to you. So that is the capability of compute service which they are providing. So that is scaling feature in Azure. Virtual machine scale set. See, I explained you that only as of now. Then virtual machine availability set. Now, what is an availability set? I tell you. So by default, whatever machine you create in availability set, they are divided into two domains, update domain and fault domain. Now I have created some virtual machines for my project. Okay, and I have chosen what I have chosen? I have chosen availability set. Now what will happen? You can see the diagram. So logically, and so machines are divided logically, and you can see here in the fault domain. So what is the meaning of fault domain? And there you can see UD, that is update domain. So update domain means in update domain, so if you have created 5 virtual machines in the availability set, if you have 5 virtual machines, then they are divided in some update domains. Now whatever machine will fall in the update domain, so whenever there is an update for that virtual machine, all the machines inside that update domain will get updated, and they will be having a maintenance time of 30 minutes. Now what happens? Here is an availability set. This is an availability set. Now in this availability set, if VM1 goes for an update, then VM2 is available, because VM2 is in update domain 2. So update domain, in whatever update domain, which like whatever the machine falls in update domain, it will only update. So it goes one by one. So when an update starts, it will update update domain 1 first. So it will update VM1. Then in update domain 1, there is also VM6, which is in another availability set. So it will update VM1 and VM6. Now I am having a high availability because my application is running here in VM1 also, VM2 also. So if VM1 goes for an update, then VM2 is available. Why it is available? Because it is in update domain 2. So until and unless machines in the update domain 1 will get updated, it will not touch the update domain 2. So once the update domain 1 gets updated, then it will go to the update domain 2, and whatever the machine falls in update domain 2, it will update those machines. So once the VM1 is completed, update is completed, then it go to VM2, which falls in update domain 2. So again I am having a high availability because VM1 came up, and now VM2 will go down because it is having some updates. So it will go and update. Similarly, there is a like fault domain, there is an update domain. Now what is this there is a fault domain. Now what is this fault domain? Means this fault domain 1 is connected by one network, and this fault domain 2 is connected by another network. So my application is running on VM1 as well, VM2 as well. Okay, so what will happen if by any chances some network issue is there, means some cables are coming and connected to this fault domain, so VM1 will go down. But again we are having these VMs, 1 will not be available, 3 will not be available, 5 will not be available, but at a time 2 will be available, because fault domain 2 is connected to another network source. So update domain is to cater any issues with the updates. If some update comes, then update domain will work. If there is any fault in the network side is coming, then fault domain will work. Okay, so if there is any fault in fault domain 2, then all the machines will go off because there is a fault in the network. So fault domain 1 still exists. And why, if anyone say, okay, network is also gone and in fault domain any VM goes to update, but I told you that in the update domain it will update only those machines which are in that particular update domain. So if fault domain goes down, this one with other network, then fault domain with the first network, and also there is update going on in VM1, then still I am having VM3 and VM5 because they are falling in update domain 3 and update domain 5. So anyhow I am having a high availability. So that is called an availability set. I think you guys got right what I'm saying.
So, take a fault domain used as a backup, we can say.
Fault domain is used as a backup to the network. Means, say, for example, I am having 3 computers at my home. And
Okay.
in one computer, I am using Airtel as a network. In second computer, I am using Jio as a network. In third computer, I am using Tata Fiber as a network. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, 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 yes. Actually, it's connected with a different network.
Different networks,
Network.
yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So at any time, if any network goes down, then still I am having other network, right?
Yeah. It automatically move to the other network.
Yeah, that's why it is called an availability set,
Yeah.
because they have formed this set like in that way that at any time, if any machines is gone for a update, then other machines are available.
Yes, yes. Right.
So if upgrade domain 1 goes for update, means VM1 and VM6 are gone for update, then upgrade domain 2 is available, 3 is available, 4 is available, 5 is available, means VM7, 2, 4, 3, 5 all are available. But say it's gone for an update and fault domain 1 goes down, then still you are having VM2 and VM5. Say if fault domain 1 and 2 goes down, 6 has gone for an update, still in the upgrade domain 3 you are having VM3 to cater your request. So in that way they have set up this availability set.
Okay. Yeah.
Now when to use VMs? So what happens, the development team or the testing team, they are testing some small features. Now for those small features they must be needing some VM, so they will give request. Now in my organization sometimes the requests come to us, so what my people in the DevOps team they do, they cater their requests. So requests come from a development team, okay, I need a dev VM, so we'll create a VM in the development environment and we give it to them, so they use that particular dev VM for their internal testing. And whenever the project is done, so they just ask us to delete that VM. So that is a purpose during testing and development. So when the development process is going on, they must be testing different features. So you can give them some virtual machine, and they with some less the virtual machine you can give them with VS Code already installed. So what they will do, they will develop their source code, they will test in that virtual machine, and when the testing is done and the release is done to the production, they will ask us to delete that virtual machine. So for small purposes like this, we use this virtual machine. Now when other is when running applications in the cloud. Now we are running some application in the cloud. Say there is a small application which we need for our internal organization work, then that particular small application we can go and install, or you can say deploy that particular application in a small VM. And if that is used for some organizational purposes, that then what we can do, we can set a shutdown, auto shutdown. So virtual machine comes with some different features like auto shutdown. So you can choose that auto shutdown. Okay, my team is working from morning 9 to evening 9. After that, my team working hours are finished. So what DevOps team will do? They will arrange, or they will create a VM with that auto shutdown feature, that after 9 p.m. the VM automatic shuts down. And next day at the morning 9, the VM automatically comes up. So those kind of cloud applications you can use when extending your data center to the cloud. Now, if you have some data center, on-premises data center, and you have some like your team is using on-premises data center, and there is an application like SharePoint. I told you, SharePoint is application which is used by like over the company. Every team uses SharePoint application. So you have to deploy that SharePoint application, but you don't want to deploy it in your on-premises network. So what you can do, you can have some server in the data center, Azure data center. You can have a virtual machine and you can deploy that SharePoint application there, so that in the public network, so everyone can go and use the SharePoint application in that Azure public network. So you have extended your data center to the cloud. Okay. And you must be having networks to connect your data center to the Azure data center. So there are different connection types. We'll be learning that in the network. So there is a point to site connection, there is a site to site connection, then there's a express route connection. So we'll be learning that later on. Now during disaster recovery also you can use it. Now what happens? Say you have created some application or deployed some application and you have chosen for disaster recovery. So what it will do, this Azure machine or virtual machine, the disaster recovery, when the disaster recovery runs, so it will have all of your data inside a virtual machine. You can create a virtual machine running on Azure to run your critical applications, and then you can shut down your primary data center and you will be having all of your data in virtual machine, Azure virtual machine. So that is a disaster recovery process. Now this disaster recovery process you can choose for other services too, like compute services, then storage services. You might be having some data in your storage disk. You might be having some data in your Azure SQL database or SQL database. So you can choose disaster recovery for these things. So for that purpose also you can create a virtual machine. Then this is the exercise we are doing earlier. So we'll be creating a Linux virtual machine, and so there is an exercise in this fundamental, that create a virtual machine and install a web application or a web server inside this. So we'll be creating a Linux virtual machine. We'll be seeing how to create a virtual machine, and then we'll be installing Linux, Nginx inside that. Nginx is a web server. So there are popular web servers in the market. Nginx is the very popular web server. Every company who will be on the cloud or who are using Kubernetes or Docker, definitely they are using Nginx web application. And this is a web application. Now there is a Tomcat also. So there are two types of application, right? Application, one is application server two types of server basically, application server and web server. Nginx is a web server. Apache Tomcat is an application server. Okay. You could use the Azure portal. Now, different types how you can create a virtual machine. So you can create a virtual machine from the portal. Then you can create it from Azure CLI. CLI is client, means similarly in the Windows you are having command prompt. You run some commands and you run some scripts, you create something, right? So you are using a command prompt. Similarly, Windows is having Azure CLI. So sorry, Windows not. Azure is provided you Azure CLI command prompt to run the commands and create the infrastructure. Also, you can use Azure PowerShell. Now, in PowerShell, what you can do, you can start your local PowerShell from Windows and you can connect your Azure to this PowerShell and you can run PowerShell commands. Or Azure Resource Manager, ARM template. So Azure provides ARM template to you. So using that template, you can deploy virtual machine or any service. So we'll be seeing this all. Now here we'll be creating a virtual machine, Linux virtual machine basically, and we'll be installing Nginx. So let's see this part. Now, when you visit to portal.azure.com, now last Friday when we completed the class, at that time we created a virtual machine, but still, let me create it quickly again. Let me delete everything. Let me delete resource group only. Delete. So once we delete this, we'll be creating a virtual machine and we'll host the Nginx also, and we'll see how to access that web page. And this exercise will contain 2-3 exercises in it. So which will be coming later on. Now everything is deleted here. So no VM is there now. Everything is deleted. Okay. Now I'm creating a virtual machine. This is a virtual machine. So according to the exercise, we have to create a Linux virtual machine. Say, so I'll create a Linux virtual machine. So in Azure Fundamental, we are just knowing the services. So we'll be creating this machine for knowing. Okay, just we'll not create every service in Azure Fundamental, because when we go to the Azure admin, there we'll doing all the practicals. So there will, because Azure Fundamental is all about knowing the service, and Azure admin is all about managing the service. So there we'll be learning every service. We'll see. So virtual machine. Now Azure has created a free trial. Then I'll be creating a resource group, maybe test resource group. Okay. Then virtual machine name, my basic VM. Okay. Then region, you can choose any region, but I have chosen Central India because we are in India, so I've chosen Central India. You may choose Southeast Asia. You may choose any region. Okay, no worries. Then availability zone. Now you can choose.
So we should choose a nearby region, no? Like,
Yeah.
like
Because why?
nearby
Why?
region.
Because you may not face latency. You know latency, what? Right?
Latency.
This is Azure region, US. This is Azure region, India. A person is having a server here and hosted an application or a website here. Now, this is a region and there are different data centers. There's a data center 1. Sorry. This is a region and there are different data centers. Okay.
Okay.
Now, people, and a region is not a small place. Like Central Asia may cover many states. Central India may cover many states. So similarly, see, this is East US. East US. Now people here in East US, when they will access this application, they may be trying to access this application www.xyz.com. This is the application. Now what happens is that due to they are in this region only, people of this region will access the website very quickly. They will not face the latency. Latency means you have seen, like, you have you booked a ticket? Have you opened a railway site one day before? Like you have to go somewhere and you have to book a Tatkal ticket. Then you go to IRCTC. IRCTC. I have to book a Tatkal ticket. So I go and log in at 10 a.m. because at 10 a.m. Tatkal window opens. So I will face latency. My website will never open at 10 a.m. Or if it will open at 10 a.m., it will take 5 minutes to open. And in that 5 minutes, all the Tatkal tickets will go. So that is a latency in the network. Because I requested IRCTC to log in, but many requests are coming to this IRCTC. There may be lakhs of requests coming to this IRCTC. Someone may be having a strong network. I am having a very weak network, basic network. I am having 1000 rupees Geo plan. Some people may have 4999 plan. They have very high speed upload and download speed. So their request will go first. My request will go last. So when I am accessing the website at the peak time, IRCT is not able to cater my request because it is already having these many requests to cater. So when a website cannot cater my request or it caters my request after a period of time, then it is called latency. You got it, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Now, what happens? People in the US can access this application. But what about people in India? People in India, they will go and access this application. So who will get the access early? US people or Indian people?
US people.
Correct. So Indian people will face latency here because the request will go and it will take some time to reach from central India to East US. So that is latency. Now I've chosen zone 1. Now I told you that it is zone redundant. You can choose many zones, zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. But in the availability zone, I've chosen zone 1 only. Then security type.
This is a custom. This is custom zone. Okay. Custom zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 are like by default. Availability zone actually.
Yes, availability zone.
It's select coming by default, or you have created custom.
No, we are not creating availability zone. That is provided by Azure only.
Okay.
Just a second, I'll show you that. Ah. So Azure as a region and there is an availability zone. So I want my virtual machine inside this availability zone also, this one also, this one also. Then you can choose for 3. Then you will be having a high availability of your virtual machine. Now, if I opt for zone 1 and only, and if zone 1 have some issue or faces some accident to the data centers, then my virtual machine may be gone because I have not chosen the redundancy, zone redundancy. So you can choose accordingly. Like if you have some application which needs to be zone redundant, you don't want to lose your data or application, then you will choose for 1, 2, and 3. That is choosing the zones. Zones are provided by Azure only. We don't create custom zones. So availability zone, I have chosen zone 1. Then security type. So basic level of security, standard security, trusted launch virtual machine. protects against persistent and advanced attack. So this is something provided by Azure, trusted launch. If you opt for standard, you can choose standard security type. Okay. So I'll choose trusted launch. Okay. Then image. Now you go to the market, and when you purchase a laptop or a computer or a desktop, you go to the market, you choose the disk or hard drive, you choose the operating system, which operating system you will install. So here is the marketplace, like that market which you go physically. So here is the marketplace. So if I see all images here, what are the images available? See, Windows Server, Microsoft 10, Windows 11, Ubuntu Linux Server, Red Hat Linux, Ubuntu Pro Server, CentOS Linux, Kali Linux. Now, I told you that if there are some requests come from the development team, now my development team says, I want a virtual machine with SQL database in it. So I'll opt a image with SQL Server 2009 on Windows Server. So this machine will automatically come with SQL database. What is the requirement accordingly? Similarly, my development teams wants a virtual machine for testing some features or development of some features. Then they will ask me a virtual machine with Visual Studio Code. So I'll choose this image of the operating system, so that that operating system or that virtual machine will be created with a Visual Studio in it. So there are n number of thousands of images here. See how many results it is showing. 6,190 results from this marketplace. So these many results they are showing. Now I'll choose an Ubuntu machine. We are choosing this one. Okay. So we'll go back and we are choosing Ubuntu service. Now here I'm
Okay,
seeing.
so can you show for Windows example?
Pardon?
Can you show Windows example? Windows VM. Windows for the Windows server.
This is a Windows server, Microsoft Windows
Yes.
10. You can choose Windows also.
So there is a sudo command is different, no?
Pardon?
Like shell. The scripting command is enough for that, for the Windows and Ubuntu.
See, Linux is a command line environment. There you will not see GUI, graphical user interface. Like in Windows, we can see graphical user interface. We can see a start menu. We can see everything. We can operate with mouse. But Linux is a command line interface. There you can run just commands. Okay. So that's why you will be using all those commands for Linux. Okay. And most of the systems, like when you go to the DevOps level, those all Docker containers, Kubernetes, everything is based on commands. Everything is a command line interface. You will not see anyone using a Docker on Windows. They will be all using on a Linux machine only. So this is an exercise. So as I told you, this is a fundamental. So you are just looking how to create a virtual machine and how to deploy a application inside it. So you'll be running practical for that. So in the Azure admin part, we'll be creating a machine with Windows also. We'll be connecting that machine. We'll be installing an application in Windows also. So I'll tell you how to create a machine for Windows also, for Linux also. How to operate a Linux machine. Now, when we go to the DevOps part, there I'll teach you all the commands, all the Linux commands, which are needed for DevOps or a admin. You got that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So here we choose this one as of now, Linux machine. And Linux machine with free services available. So some of the features may be given free. Okay. Now architecture you can choose. Maybe ARM64 or x64. So 64 means 64-bit processor. 64-bit, 32-bit processor. So when you go to the shop and purchase some laptop or desktop, so there you purchase with the desktop, you purchase a motherboard. There is a motherboard inside that. Inside that motherboard, there is a processor which can do calculations. And those calculations depends on, see, computer doesn't understands your language. It understands binary language. Okay. So those binary calculations. So how much is the calculation capacity or reading capacity? So systems come with 32-bit or 64-bit. These are two kinds of architecture which come with the processor. So maybe there are different companies providing, like ARM64 is one, x64 is other one. So let me choose x64. Then Azure Spot discount. Now there is a Spot instance. So I'll tell you about Spot instance after this. Okay. So we'll look this afterwards. As of now, leave this. When you will be creating the machine, leave this one, Azure Spot. Then size. Size of what? Your disk OS. Okay. Now there is B1S, free services available. Now here are different sizes. I told you yesterday in the pricing overview, there are different series of machines. B1S, D1S, B series, D series, E series. So you can choose accordingly, like DS1, 1 core, 4 disk. They give you 4 data disk. 32 IOPS. IOPS, speed of calculation, input output per second, IOPS. Then temporary storage they are providing of 7 GB. And it is premium disk is supported with this one. So as we are just creating a basic machine, so we'll go with B1S, where free services are available. Free services means it will not charge me a data disk, which is providing, or temporary storage disk, 4 GB, it is providing. But calculation speed is very low, IOPS 320. So as we are just doing a practical, so we will be going with this, because we don't want to go to the higher cost machines, because we have a limited credit and we have to practice other services too. So we'll go with free one. Standard B1S, one core CPU, because this is B1S, 1 means 1 core. B2S, 2 means 2 core. For B4S, 4 means 4 core. 4 CPUs. Here it is 1 CPU, 1 virtual CPU. 1 GB memory, 642 rupees per month it cost. Okay. Then authentication, how we want to authenticate. So you can have a password authentication. In password authentication, you will be using a username and password. But I'll be doing authentication with the public key. I'll tell you how to create and generate and connect with a public key. So this is a SSH public key. Now I'll set a username. Just say Azure user. SSH public key source. Now I'll be generating a public key here. So you can generate a public key pair. You can use the existing key pair. Use existing key stored in Azure. If you have stored in your key in somewhere in Azure, like in Azure Key Vault. So Key Vault is a service where we store the keys. Okay. So we'll generate a key pair because we are not having any key pair as of now. We'll generate it. Key pair name. My basic key. Okay. So I've given any name to that key pair, my basic key 2. Okay. Public inbound ports. So allow selected ports. Now there are ports in the machine. You have a laptop or a desktop at home. By default, there are range of ports. There are 65,536. Maybe I'm wrong, 536 or 236, but 536, I know that. But maybe I am not sure, but 65,536. These number of ports are there in a system, out of which 1,000 ports dedicated for system use. After 1,000, from 1001, you can use it for your purpose. You can use. Like there is a example. If I installed an application server, Tomcat application server in my computer, so that Tomcat application server runs on port number 8080. Tomcat. This is the application server. There is a protocol, SMTP protocol. Many company uses. Simple mail transfer protocol. Now this is used by system. So that is why the port number used by SMTP is 25. Because till 1000 ports are dedicated for system use. So system will use SMTP port. Here 8080 is out of 1000 because it is a custom application installed by us. That's why it is using the port number after 1000, 8080. MySQL database application uses 3304, I think. I'm not sure, 3304. Okay. MS SQL uses 1433. You have to learn all these things, right? You can see in Google. So once you start like doing things in DevOps, everything, you will learn by heart these things. So someone may ask you, what is the port for? In interview, they ask mainly, what is the default port for MS SQL database? You can say 1433. What is the default port for MySQL? 3304. Okay. So all these ports, so there are 65,536 ports. These are the ports. Okay. Now, so this is SSH. This is SSH. Now, public inbound ports. So SSH, similarly, if I SSH is for system use 22. So if you want to access any virtual machine, Linux virtual machine, then SSH port must be opened. Otherwise, you won't be able to access that virtual machine. SSH is secured shell. So this port must be opened. So what we'll do here, we'll select this port SSH 22. Now we'll go to the disk. OS disk size 30 GB default size they are giving. I'll choose 64 because free account is eligible to free account. Okay, I'll choose 64. OS disk type. Now premium SSD, you want a premium one or you want a standard one? Okay, so I choose standard, or you can choose premium also. Later on you can delete, no worries. Now I want my storage operating system disk to be deleted. When I delete the VM, I want this premium disk to be deleted. So I'll select this one. So see how they have given the features. Key management. So that key for this VM or this OS disk. So key management for this disk, it may be a customer managed key. So if I choose customer managed key, then you have to manage your key. Means, so key comes with expiration. So if say one key is there, which you use to log into the disk or anywhere, so that key may by default comes with 1 year of validity. So after that, that key expires. So if someone, what happens if there is my team and my team forgets to update that key in time, then what will happen? I'll not be able to log into the VM. My disk will not work. My data will be secured in the disk, but I lost the key. How I'll access the data? So that's why here always we choose platform managed key. Means the key is managed by Azure. Sometimes they organization choose customer managed also, but a lot of hectic is there. You need someone to monitor. In our team, there is one person who updates each and every key. His work is to update that key only. So he has a sheet. He maintains a sheet. Okay, how many number of keys for which resources? And he sees, okay, this key is expiring, this key is expiring, this key is expiring. So in a day, he may have to update 50 keys, 50 to 100 keys. Because we are having 60,000 services running. So in our project only daily, he needs to update these number of keys. So that's why in our case, we are doing this exercise. So we'll be choosing platform managed key only. We don't want that headache. Then enable ultra disk capability. Now what is ultra disk? Azure Ultra Disk deliver high throughput, high IOPS. Now if I enable this, so my compute capacity is 320 IOPS, input output per second. So this VM comes with a compute capacity 320 IOPS. But when I am choosing the disk, now here is the disk. I can choose for an ultra disk. Now what this ultra disk will do? It will increase the capacity. It may increase it to 1200 IOPS or whatever I will choose. 1900 IOPS. So that is the work of ultra disk. So I can choose it, but I'll not choose this. Now, this is the operating system disk. Similarly, you can add a data disk. Data means where you will keep your data. What kind of data? A movie, a picture, images, PDFs, that kind of data. So that is a data disk. We'll not choose here. We'll go to advanced.
Our data disk, after data disk means we can import our existing data.
Yes.
Right.
Data disk, you will be keeping your data only, whatever data you want.
So same data we can import.
See,
Exist.
in your laptop, if you go to File Explorer, there is a C drive, right?
Yes.
C drive is totally for system use.
Right. Yes.
That is the operating disk system disk, C drive.
Okay. Yes.
Rest all drives, D drive, E drive, that is a data disk
Okay. Yes.
where you keep
Got
your data. Okay.
Apart from default, if we want to create more drives,
Yeah.
then
So
we can
they are asking you if you want a data disk, then only they will provide you. Otherwise, what they will do, they will provide me a temporary disk. So they, apart from C drive, they will be providing me a disk, but that will be a temporary disk. So in the
Yes.
temporary disk, what will happen? Whenever I stop my VM, that temporary disk will go off and my data will be vanished.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in advance you can use manage disk. Then manage disk means availability zone required manage disk. Manage disk means that disk will be managed in the availability zones, different availability zone. So as we have chosen availability zone 1, we have not chosen zone 2 and zone 3. That's why this you manage disk option is not available. It is grayed out. So for this to choose, you have to availability zone requires. You have to choose other availability zone also. Then only you can have this option. Then ephemeral OS disk. Ephemeral OS disks are created on the local virtual machine storage and are not persisted to the remote Azure storage. So you can choose if you want a ephemeral OS disk. So that ephemeral disk you can access from your on-premise also. Okay, that kind of disk. Then we'll go to network.
So this is also disabled. So
Yes.
network not available.
Yeah, not available for this set of configuration.
It means we can't use that.
Yeah, for this configuration we can't use, but for other
Like,
configuration, maybe for the organizational purpose, when you will
yeah.
create.
In case of enterprise level.
Correct. You will be, see, as a admin or as a DevOps engineer, you will be getting requirements in your hand. Okay, you will be
Right.
having a mail. So in that mail, they will mention, I want this disk, I want this disk, I want this, I want this. You just have to go and create. So you don't
Right.
have to think from your mind, okay, what I have to create. Whatever they will ask, you just go and create and give it to them.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, virtual network. So now we'll be learning about network. So here we'll see this is a my basic virtual network. It has taken this name by default because I named my VM as my basic VM. So they have given this name by default, my basic VM virtual network, VNet. Now there is a subnet. So let's choose default subnet. Okay. Then public IP. So they have given me one public IP. Now what is public IP? Public IP. And there's a private IP. You can access this public IP in a public network. Public network. This is private network. Public network, the resources are available publicly, but to access this resource, because that resource, Azure resource, is accessed, can be accessed over the internet. You are accessing that resource over the internet. So that resource must be having some address. So you want some public IP. Only then only you can access that virtual machine. Because you are accessing that virtual machine over the internet. So it must have some address. So we'll create a public IP, public address, and we'll attach this public IP to the virtual machine. So you can access the virtual machine. Similarly, there is a private IP. Now private IP is inside the private network. So people inside this network, private cloud, can only access the private IP or virtual machine with private IP. So here, my basic, this is public IP we are creating, my basic VM IP. NIC, Network Security Group. So Network Security Group contains security rules that allow or deny inbound network traffic. Inbound means incoming. Now I have created some rules. This is a virtual machine. Here I have a network. Through this network, people are going inside using this network. Then they are accessing the application. This is VNet. Now I have set some rules here. I have set an NSG, Network Security Group. NSG. In this NSG is having some, I'll be setting some rules that are called NSG rules. And what those rules will say? Those rules, I'll tell you once the machine is created. Okay, NSG rules. So you have to choose NIC, Network Interface Card, and set a network security group. What is network interface card? So in your laptop or your desktop, so say this is my desktop and there is a port here, small port for connecting service provider network. Service provider means Airtel cable is coming to my router. This is the router of the service provider. This is the router. And the cable is coming from somewhere. So this is a service provider and cable from that router we attach to our desktop. LAN cable basically. Everyone has seen LAN cable, right? You've seen LAN cable or not?
Seen.
Yeah. So you will attach that LAN cable into your laptop or desktop. So that socket, inside that socket, this socket is connected. So this socket inside is connected to a chip. Inside, sorry, just a second. Inside this socket, there is a chip, small chip, and this chip, this chip this chip is having some ICs in it, small ICs. This chip is called NIC, Network Interface Card. Network Interface Card. That is NIC. Public inbound ports. Now, earlier I've selected this port. Okay, allow selected port so that I can access my virtual machine. Delete public IP and NIC when VM is created, VM is deleted. Now I want my public IP and NIC to get deleted when I delete the virtual machine. Why I want public IP to be deleted? Because this public IP charges me maybe $3 per month or something like that. So it charges me. So I have to delete that IP. Otherwise, what will happen in my organization? When we work to clear the resources, we see many IPs created like that. No one is, you can say, having or like development team uses machine for themselves, testing team uses, but when like the project is over, they ask to delete. Now what people do? People delete the virtual machine by not even looking to the configuration. Okay, this item was not checked while creating virtual machine. Then what will happen? You have to go and look whether public IP or NIC is there or not for that virtual machine. So first you have to delete those things after stopping the VM, then delete the VM. That is the best practice. That is the best practice. Because if you delete the virtual machine and this item is not checked, then your public IP will be there. It will be there. So no one will go and bother that public IP is there, and it will charge and charge and charge. Some of the public IPs in our organization, they are from 3 years. So when a request comes to clear the resources, there is a list of public IPs running from last 1 year. There are, say, many IPs, 500 to 600 IPs are running. And if one IP charges $3 a month, then you have 12 months. So 12 months, 3 12s are 36. And similarly, there are, say, 600 IPs running. What it will cost to us? You can imagine a small IP will cost this much. So that's why best practice is when you go and delete a VM, just check once for public IP and NIC, whether they are present or not. If they are present, then just go and delete. Don't let them like be there in the resource group. Delete that public IP also related to that VM. Okay, so that's why I'll check this. That is a best practice. Enable accelerated networking. So if you want to enable accelerated networking, then you can choose this. Means it will help you to get over with the latency. I explained you what latency is. So you can enable if you want. Then load balancing. Now I don't want load balancer with this machine because I'm not hosting that much application. It will come up with 10,000 requests or 20,000 requests. It's such simple web application, web server. So I'm choosing none. Management, identity management, enable system assigned managed identity. Okay. So system managed identity is Azure resources to authenticate to cloud services. Now, if I enable this, then maybe I have set up some Azure directory identity service and added some users over there. Then those users, if I allow those users from that particular identity service, then they can be able to access the VM. Login with Azure AD. If I've created some Active Directory and I choose this, then I set up the role assignment, who can log in, who cannot, Azure AD. Then auto shutdown feature. If I told you, if 9 p.m. after my team goes, like they have off hours after 9 p.m. What I'll choose? I'll choose this auto shutdown of the machine. And I'll choose the time that after 9 p.m. the machine goes off. And later on, it comes up. So this is, and you will be getting a notification before shutdown. So machine will go off. Then again in the morning when you come up, you start your virtual machine. So this is an auto shutdown feature. Backup. You can enable the backup of your machine. If you have some data, some SQL server inside your machine, it must be having some data, you can choose. Then guest OS updates. So image default. Now I'm choosing patches. Now our operating system in our laptop gets updates from Microsoft. Okay, that please update your Windows operating system. So these are guest updates. So I'm choosing a default. So Microsoft will take care. Monitoring, alerts. I can choose the alert, enable the alert. I can configure the alert. What kind of alert? Percentage of, if percentage of CPU is greater than 80%, then alert me that my CPU is running over the capacity. So I can get an alert by an email. So I can set the alert. But this comes with extra cost, $0.70 monthly total. Okay, so you can choose alerts. You can choose diagnostics. Diagnostic means if there is some issue in my virtual machine, then there will be some logs which will be generated why the virtual machine have that issue, and those logs by default will be saved in a storage account. So if I enable boot diagnostic, I'll be needing a storage account to store those logs. So I'll disable this as of now. Enable OS guest diagnostic. Now for operating system, if there is an issue, then you can enable guest diagnostic. Means it will diagnose itself. Azure will diagnose what happens to the operating system. You can choose. Advanced feature extension. If you want to install any extension, now I think one of you was asking to me that if we run a pipeline and we need to set an agent. So see, Azure pipeline agent is there. So by default, as an extension to this virtual machine, I can install an agent to run a pipeline. I can choose anything. I can choose to set up an Azure AD. I can choose to an agent for Linux server monitoring. I can write a custom script for Linux. Okay, right? So these all extensions you can install. VM applications, you can install the applications. Some applications you can install. So by default, they will provide you some applications. In the gallery, just applications. So there are no applications as of now it is showing, but you may be having some applications from your organization side also. So maybe some application is running somewhere and you want to choose a custom application or application from the market side, then you can choose some application to install here. Then comes the custom script or custom data. So you can put some custom script here. You can run any script so that whenever your virtual machine is created, this script by default runs with that virtual machine to create that particular configuration which you want from the virtual machine. So you can run some custom script. By default, some developer or tester is asking to you, I want this machine and I want a Linux machine and I want this custom script to be run while creating the virtual machine. Then you can keep this custom script here. So there are two places. So at this place, what happens? This script will be run when the machine is getting created. Okay. Then user data, enable user data. So this is the thing. So if you want something here, some script, then you have to enable user data. Okay. Pass a script, configuration file, other data that will be accessible to your application. You can pass any data, any user data. Okay, and enable that user data. Then performance, enable capabilities to enhance the performance of your resources. Higher remote disk storage performance. If you want some higher remote, so there is a disk, remote disk, and it you are getting some storage from that particular disk, and you want higher storage performance with whatever the disk you are attaching here, or if you are choosing some data disk. We have not chosen in our this demo, but if you want to choose, you can choose this. So as of now, it is grayed out. You cannot choose, right? Then host, you can set the host group in your machine. Host, I tell you what is host. I told you earlier. Capacity reservations, you can choose the reservation. So you can choose whether the machine should run for 1 year or 3 year, like this. Here we cannot see that group as of now because we have that machine for free one. So in that machine, this option is not available. Proximity placement group. Now proximity placement group, if you choose this, then say you have a virtual machine, you have a data disk, an OS disk, anything, a SQL database. So you want all these because these are related to one VM or one project. You want these things in a close proximity so that they can function well. So what you can choose? You can choose proximity placement group so that all those resources which are for that particular project can be physically closer in the same region. Next, tags. Now company sets some policies. Okay, if you want to create a virtual machine, you need to have some tags. Maybe for example, I write my company asks you to write the employee ID and the value of employee ID, whatever your employee ID is. Then only you can create a virtual machine because it's a policy set by the company, So you can have that. As of now, we don't have any policy. Then review and create. See, validation is passed. Now, when you leave something or you fill something appropriate, a cross will appear here that validation is not passed. So you have to go back in that section and you have to make a change, whatever you have done wrong. So now here validation is passed that my virtual machine is validated and I can create it. And it will charge me 0.8796 INR per hour. So these are all we have set. Create. Now we have choose to authentication via private key. So what we'll do? We'll download a private key. Save that private key. Now my machine is getting created. My machine is created. So agent is not ready. My machine agent is getting ready in some time. I'll refresh. See, here you have the resource group. Status of the machine is running. Location, Central India, Zone 1. Because we have choose Zone 1 only. Availability zone. Subscription ID, availability zone 1. Then there are no tags. Operating system, Ubuntu. We choose the image as Ubuntu. Linux. Size B1S, standard, 1 core, 1 GB memory. IP address. So you'll be connecting this machine using this IP address. Virtual network. And this is the default subnet here. DNS name. I have not configured DNS name, so we'll be accessing our machine through public IP. If you choose some DNS name for your machine, then this IP address is linked with this DNS name and we can directly access our machine through this DNS name. Okay. Then properties, virtual machine, networking, in network interface card, private IP. My machine's private IP is this. So by default, a machine is having a private IP. You can choose to have a public IP or not, but by default, machine comes with a private IP. Size, everything, disk, extension. I have not chosen any extension or application, so there is nothing. See, now machine is set. Agent is ready. Now for connecting this machine, I'll be needing an SSH agent. What is that SSH agent? Have you heard about Putty? Popular SSH agent. using which you can connect Linux machine. Have anyone heard about Putty?
No.
So right now, just type Putty in Google. I'll tell you from where to download. Just type Putty. This is an SSH agent, secured shell, using which you can connect a Linux machine. And this is very basic of this DevOps, right? And Azure admin. Because there you will be getting machines you have to connect using SSH agent. And Mac machine by default comes with SSH enabled. But in Windows, you need some agent. Do you have anyone having Mac machine? Hello?
No at my
No,
side.
Abhishek.
Okay. Then we'll be using Putty only. I also don't have Mac machine, so I'll be using Putty. So have you opened this link?
Yes.
Just open download Putty link, and you can see this black screen in my page, in my sharing screen. When you click on that link, first link, you will get this download Putty. And when you click on download Putty, then this page will come. I'll directly provide you this page in the chat window. Use this link, which I pasted in the chat window right now. Everyone has come to this page?
Yes.
So now there is an installer file. So Windows installer. Now, any one of you using Office laptop for this?
No, I'm using my personal.
Okay. So if you are using personal, then you can download this and install the file, because in the Office laptop, you cannot install this. Because installing in the Office laptop will need some permission, right? So for
Yes.
that purpose, you have a binary file. So this binary file does not needs an installation. You can directly go this 64-bit x86 and you can download. Putty.exe. If you click this, it will download for you.
So which one we should install? That
Can you see my
alternate-
screen? Alternate
Yes, yes.
binary files. There is a section alternate binary
On
files.
personal laptop also?
You can download. This one is
Okay.
very easy. It's just like you
Okay,
can
okay.
download and use. You don't have to
Okay.
install.
Okay.
Just download and tell me if you have done with that.
I'm done.
Okay, download it.
Yes.
Okay. Everyone? I'm not getting any response from Jitendra and Rajiv. Have you guys downloaded this putty?
No, Abhishek. Actually, I'm outside and I'm attending this session from mobile.
Okay, okay. Please don't do that. I'll ask you, don't do that. That will not help you.
Yeah, actually today is like 15 August, right? So there was kids program in school. So that also I can't avoid in this session also.
Okay, then you can see the recording. Okay.
Yeah, yes.
So once you downloaded this putty, so you will be getting some file like this. This putty, you will be getting file like this putty.
Yes.
Okay. Then similarly, you have to download putty generator. So just go back in the Google and write putty key generator. You can see my screen, putty key generator. That is putty gen. And click on the first link, putty gen download. If you don't get, then I've pasted the link. Just go to this link and download putty gen. So when you come to this page, download putty page, then you go down little bit downwards. Then after MSI installer for putty, you will see putty.exe page. This here you will see number of files here. Are you able to see?
Yes. Let me search on my page. After that, we have to select PuttyGen on Windows, right?
Yes, yes. Left hand side, putty gen on Windows.
And but there is no that chart which is there on your screen.
I've pasted one link in the chat. Just
Yes,
use
I
that.
have opened that as well.
So
Yes,
when
yes, got it.
yeah, when you go down to that link, when you scroll down,
Yes.
so there is one MSI written, MSI Windows installer.
Okay.
There are some maps and directions are there when you scroll down little bit.
Yes.
After that, there is a MSI installer. MSI Windows installer.
MSI Windows installer for Putty.
Below that, go down. Below that, there is one more table,
Yes.
putty.exe, pscp.exe. psftp.exe. There are many files, right?
Yes.
So at second last, you will see puttigen.exe.
Got it.
So download puttigen.exe for 64-bit, second one. Click on that. Puttigen.exe. Once you download, let me know.
Then there is opening one window and there is click here to download manually, alternate server and link broken. Is it like that?
Yes, click here to download manually. Click on that.
I think
Or if
it's
you
done.
don't click also, then also down.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is
Then
there.
also you can go and save puttigen. Now you have got two files. One is putty, one is puttigen.
Yes.
Now, when I created the virtual machine, I have downloaded a private key. You saw that, right?
Yes.
This is my basic key 2.
I can see only Putty Linux, Putty Mac installation.
In puttigen link, yeah, have you gone there? Where?
Yeah. I'm there only on Puttigen link.
I'll give you one more link. Okay, you can just go and directly download them. Okay, I'll give you one more link.
Okay.
Click last link which I give you just now. You will click it and directly it will ask you for download.
Mhm. Click here to download manually, right?
No, it will directly. So like give
Yeah,
it one.
it's
Yeah.
right, download.
It will ask you to save directly. No worries.
Yes. So what we need to do here?
Now there are two files, right? Putty and puttigen. If you can see my screen. Okay. Right?
Mm.
You have downloaded two files. One is putty, one is puttigen.
Yes.
Then when I created virtual machine, I saved the private key. Now I have to create a public private key pair using this private key. So what I'll open now. You don't have to anything because did you created virtual machine?
Yes, but we have
Yeah,
deleted
but we
that.
deleted.
Okay. Then you can create today as well by seeing the video and just save that key, right? And this
Okay.
is my key. Just see my screen now. Okay.
Mhm.
This is my key, which I private key. So I'll open puttigen. I'll load my key. So as that is a private key, it will not let me in. I'll be needing a key pair for that. So here, as it is, I'm not able to see in this folder that my basic key 2, but here it is ppk selected. So I have to select all files. So when I select all files, I can see my basic key 2. I'll open this key. Successfully imported key. Okay. Now this is the key. What I'll do, I'll save a private key using this key. So I selected save private key. Are you sure you want to save this key? Yes. So I'll be saving this key with my basic key 2. Now, this is not a private file, this is a key pair, so I'll put dot ppk. This is a ppk file. That was a PEM file. This is a ppk file. I saved it. And I'll close this generator. Now, my basic key 2 is created. ppk file is created. Now, what I'll do, I'll open putty. Here in the putty, left hand side, inside the connection, there is SSH. When you click that SSH, there is authentication. Now, when you click that authentication, you will see credentials. There it will ask you at the top, private key file for authentication. I'll browse that and I'll upload my basic key 2, which I created just now. And then I'll scroll up on the left hand side. I'll go to session after uploading the file. Now it is asking me host name or IP address to log in. So I'll go to my virtual machine. I'll copy this public IP address. I'll copy. And I'll go to putty. I'll paste here in the host name. Port 22 is selected. What I'll do? I'll open. Accept. Now it is asking me login as. Which user you are logging as? I choose Azure user. When I write Azure user, I'm logged into my machine. See, I'm logged into my machine. Now I'll put a command. So all the commands we'll learn later. Okay, we'll see just as of now we'll see commands. Those are needed. Okay. So I'll put a clear command. So it will clear all the screen. Now, if I put an ls means list command. ls, I cannot see anything because I am in my home directory. So I have not installed or created anything inside my home directory. That is why it is empty. So when I'm doing an ls, it is not showing anything. So I'll go back out from my home directory to the root directory. Root means, so I'll show you a Linux structure first. Just give me a second. I'll show you Linux structure first. Linux root structure. So in the Linux operating system, there is a root structure which will show you a Linux structure, how a Linux is. See, this slash is a root directory in Linux operating system. Inside this, there are different folders: binary, dev, etc, usr, home, lib, sbin, temporary, var. Okay, now bin means where all the binary files are there. Binary files related to some configuration file. Okay, and there is a sbin. Sbin means system binary files, which is used by the system. Now, if you go to some your Windows and C drive and inside that program files, then you may see some binary files. Those are required by the system. Similarly, dev. Dev means device. If you have attached any device with this Linux system, it will show inside dev. Then etc. So anything you can put, if you want to put some file or anything, you can put it on etc. Then usr, user. So there is user folder. inside this also you can create different directories. So after this, there is a home directory. Now, whatever user I'll associate or I'll give access to this Linux machine, say both of you are here, Priyanka and Jiten and Rajiv. So if I add you guys and give access to this virtual machine, my virtual machine, then you will be added inside this home directory and you will be having your own environment. Like I am having my own environment as Azure user because I've created Linux virtual machine as Azure user. So I am Azure user and I can add different users to access this virtual machine. So all will be coming inside home directory. Then library, it contains all the library files. Temp, it contains temporary files. Var. So if you want to host any web server or anything, it will be inside it. It will be hosted inside it var. Okay. So this is a directory structure. Now I quickly show you here. See, I'm in my home directory, but if I go back, how will I go back? CD space double dot. I'm back to my home directory. You can see /home. Now if I do list command ls, it is giving me Azure user. Similarly, I can add different users, maybe Priyanka or whatever from whatever you are creating your user. I'll add you as a user. So all the users will be listed inside this home directory. And you can have your environment like Azure user is having its own environment. That is a user of this system. So inside home directory, you will be getting different users. Now, if I further go back to the root directory, I'm in the home directory. I'm again going back. CD double dot space double dot. Now you can see a slash. Slash means this is a root directory. Now if I do list command ls, see, you can see the whole directory structure inside the root directory. There is a bin, there is a boot, there is a device, etc, home, lib, library 32, library 64. Okay. Lost, found, media. Media means you can put media files, video files, everything here in the media. MNT. MNT means mount. So if you link any hard disk or disk to this system, that will be showing in the mount, MNT, mount folder. How many disks are mounted to this VM. Then OPT, then proc files are there, some system files. Then root. Root means main root, like root management group. It's a main folder. Inside root, everything is there. Run, sbin, system binary files, snap, srv, system, tmp, usr, var. I told you the directory structure I showed you. That is the directory structure here. Now, this is virtual machine is created. I have logged into the virtual machine using putty. Now, there was an exercise. Now, when we have started Azure, then there was create a website hosted in Azure. So, anything. Okay, so we'll host a web server. Website means just a web server. It will come with a page written Nginx in it. So Nginx is a web server. So how to install Nginx? Now we'll go back to our home directory. We came back to the root directory. So for going back, just do a CD double dot. This comes to the root directory. Now I'll go to my home directory. Okay. So CD home. I'm in my home directory. I'll do an ls, Azure user, cd Azure user. I'm in my own environment, user environment, that is Azure user inside home directory. Now I'll run some commands to install. So I'll give you those commands, okay, in the chat window. So you can just save it from the chat window in some notepad. Later on, I'll provided you all the notepad with all the commands when we will be learning Linux. So where it is? See, these are the commands. I'll paste in the chat window for now. Just save it. Chat. Just copy these commands. Okay. Oh no, it's you can download and you can type. Okay. Just in text format is not there. Okay. Now it will come in text format. Now you can copy, just simple copy from chat window and put it somewhere in the notepad. Save it. And पंखा बंद है. So now I'll start with an update, sudo apt update. So this is a command which will update my Ubuntu server. So I'll paste here. Sudo. Don't copy with dollar because dollar is already there. Okay, don't copy with dollar. Just copy the command. So when you will be pasting the command in or writing the command in here, just write dollar will already be there. Sudo apt update. So it will update my system. My system is getting updated. So maybe some files may be old in this image. So what it will do, it will update all those files inside this image through which we created this VM. Now it is updated. 20 packages are upgraded. See, it is written at the last line. 20 packages are upgraded. Now I'll clear screen. Okay. Second command is sudo apt install nginx. Sudo apt install nginx. I'll copy and paste here. Right click and paste. You'll do the just right click, it will automatically paste in Linux server. So after installing, it will ask, do you want to continue? Yes or no? Y/N. You will put yes. I click again. It will install nginx server in my VM. See, it is showing the progress 54%, 70, 90%, 100%, 99%. It is installing. So once it is installed, we will see. Okay. Now it is installed. See. So I'll put and clear a command to clear this screen, and we'll see next command what is. So after installing, we'll see the list. We'll be listing the. Now I've installed everything. Now the web server should be coming up. So if I go copy this, go here and put an HTTP // I'll copy that IP. So I should see the Nginx because I've installed. So am I seeing this? Let's see. It's loading. It's loading. Okay. Loadings. It will not. It will not load. Okay. It will take some time. So there is a request going, and that request is having a limit, time limit. So as of now, it is continuously pinging that, but I'm not getting that. So that means there is some issue. What issue is that? Just a second. See, network error. Okay. So we'll be coming here in the portal. To our VM, and so HTTP. So we have enabled SSH port in the networking. So that's why we are able to log in the VM. But for accessing the website using SSH, using this SSH, we are accessing the machine. But for HTTP, we need port number 80. Then only we can be able to see the web server page. Because this port is not open, we will not be able to see the page. As we enable SSH port 22 to log into the machine, we have to enable HTTP port. That is a network configuration we need to do here. And where we'll be doing, I told you here that I'll be setting an NSG, network security group. So without any rules, no one will be able to access anything inside this machine. So I have to set the NSG rules. Now for these NSG rules, see, my machine in the networking side, there is a public IP address, but I am not able to access using public IP address. Why? Because the network security group is not set. So we have to look upon the network security group. This is a network interface. So we'll click on the network interface and we'll see which network security group is associated with it. So there is my basic VM network security group. So I'll go there. And in this network security group, see, there are inbound security rules and outbound security rules. So as an inbound securities rule, 22 is allowed. So that's why we are able to log in. But what we have to do? We have to allow inbound means going inside the machine. So how we can access? We have to add an inbound rule. What rule we have to add? Now we go to left hand side inbound security rule in NSG and here we click on add. Source may be any. It may come from any source. Source port range, any range means from any port, any IP I'm setting as of now. In organization, you have to choose which IP you have to give access, which computer you have to give access. Because as an organization, I don't want anyone randomly to access my website or my server. So I'll choose IP. But here, I'm just choosing source and destination any. Now service. Which service I want? HTTP. HTTP port comes on 80. Okay. And it follows a TCP protocol. Now you have TCP IP protocols, internet protocols. You have learned in your classes earlier. I don't know if you have done engineering or MCA or any kind of that degree, then you have learned about TCP IP protocols. Okay. So action, allow, I'm allowing. And here first priority is 300. So I've given it to 22. After this only I can give other priorities because first priority is to log in, right? You cannot give other priorities earlier. This first priority is login. So 300 I've given. May it be 1000. You can give 1000. But whatever number you will give priority to SSH, after that only. So number after that you can give other ports as priority. So here 300 I have given to SSH. So I have to give 310, 310 or 311 or 312 or 301 to HTTP. So I have given this. Allow any HTTP. I'll name this HTTP. Okay. I'll add. So I've added this rule. Now this rule says that at priority 310 and HTTP is enabled. Port 80 is enabled from where traffic comes inside. Now I have allowed the traffic to come inside my machine and access the web server from port 80. TCP any allow. Now as of now I have not configured DNS server for my machine. DNS means DNS name, domain name. I don't have any name, my basic vm.something.com. So that's why there is another port for that, HTTPS. So when you open a website, by default, you have to put here HTTPS. Hypertext Text Transfer Protocol secured. HTTPS means secured. HTTP means it's not secured. HTTP is secured. So as of now, we don't have DNS server, so we will only enable HTTP. And we have allowed this port. Now let's see. Now we list what ports are allowed. So there is a command sudo ufw app list. So we'll see. See, in the app list, we have Nginx installed. Nginx HTTP is also enabled. Nginx HTTPS is also enabled. Okay. So we have list all them. Now what we have to do, we have to allow only HTTP here. So we will allow only HTTP from inside the machine. So once we put this command, sudo ufw allow Nginx HTTP. So this will allow you. Now we can check the status. Just a second. Okay, maybe there is some issue with the rules updated. See, there was an issue with the inverted comma, because inverted comma from the notepad it was not taking. So that's why we have solved it. So rules are updated. Okay, now it will allow, this Linux server will allow only HTTP. Now other command, now we will see the status, what is allowed, what is not. So we'll run the status, ufw status. Rest are, it is showing in, okay, rules updated. Okay, we have to start Nginx. So there is a service behind this. So when we install a web server, so there is a service running behind. So that service is inactive as of now. So what we have to do? We have to activate that service to run Nginx. Now it is active and running, right? Now I've set the security group. I've set the NSG rules here. Now I'll see my VM and its address. Maybe I'm able to access. See, welcome to Nginx. Means our web server has installed. And earlier we were not able to see this because the port was not open. Now we have started the service, opened the port, set the NSG rules. So we are able to see this. Now if you copy, I'll ask you to access from your side too. HTTP. Access this from your side. It's a double HTTP. Don't copy that. Just copy this one, single one. And just run from your side if you are able to. Because I have allowed any to any. So you may be able to run from your side too. Just check and tell me, both of you. Or Rajiv if you are here, or just access it from your mobile if you are attending from mobile. HTTP double dot. I pasted in the chat. Just copy and try. Please respond if you are able to access this server page.
No, it's giving me an error, Abhishek.
What
Yeah,
error?
it is.
Web,
Yeah, it is saying
no,
welcome to
it's
NGNX.
giving like welcome to NGX. I think it's unable to
No,
access.
it's
Yeah,
not an
welcome to-
error. Web server is installed.
Okay.
So it
Yeah,
is
yeah,
saying now
actually,
welcome to
the UI,
Nginx.
Yeah.
but the
Same,
UI
same,
looks
same,
like
same.
error kind of thing.
See, we have not updated anything in the web page of that web server.
Yeah,
So
got it.
yeah, we don't have we have not designed any cascading style sheets or so that you can see some website over here. So it will show you just welcome to Nginx.
Yeah, right. Welcome could have been little, more, but anyway, yeah, it's working for me.
Yeah. So now if I go and see, so by default that path is var www where that web page HTML web page is there for Nginx. So that path is, so there is a path where that HTML page is there. So now you are able to access Nginx. Welcome to Nginx. So this is a HTML page. From where you are getting this? So there is a path. So if I'll go back to the root directory, cd double dot. So I'll go back to home and then go back to root directory. I'll do an ls. Now there is a var folder at the last. So I'll go to the var. If I'll do an ls inside var, I can see a www, right? That is a directory for the server, web server. So I'll do a cd www. If I do a list again here, then I can see HTML page, right? There's a HTML file. So I'll do a clear. I'll again do a ls, see HTML page. So there is a cat command to see this HTML page. So I'll write cat HTML. Sorry. Okay, I have to go inside HTML. Sorry. cd HTML. That is a directory. Now I can see that index nginx debian HTML page. Now I'll do a cat command and I'll press a tab. Okay. So by default, there is only one file. So when I press tab, it will give me that file. So cat, that file name. I'll do an enter. See, whatever there inside the file, it is displayed here. And here it is written, welcome to Nginx. Welcome to Nginx. Now, what I can do, I can choose a VI editor here and I can edit this page. So what I can do, I'll write a VI and then again the tab. It will give me a file name and I'll put an enter. Now I can edit this file. I'll press an I. After this, after opening, I'll press I. I means it comes in insert mode. Now I can, through cursors, I can go there and I can edit that page. So there is a title, welcome to Nginx. After this, I can write my name is Abhishek. What I can do? I can press an escape and then I'll write colon. At the last you can see colon W. W means write. Means I've written something here. So I'll write this. So when you upload anything on a disk, you said I'm writing the disk, right? And then press Q. That is quit. Colon WQ. wait, colon WQ. Okay, add to overwrite. I'm adding this to overwrite. Colon Q. Let me see that file again. It has not written that file due to some permissions maybe. Okay, but we can write that file, no worries. Can anyone tell me why I'm not able to edit this file? Can anyone tell me? Because the Nginx server is running. If I want to edit this file, I have to stop that Nginx server. Then only I can. So as of now, it is not letting me write, but it's letting me exit. So if I'll write colon Q, Q means quit. I'm not saving anything. I'm not writing anything. And exclamation. Then it's letting me out. Why it's not letting me edit, but it's letting me out. So one command is working, one is not. That means why it's not letting me edit, because the server is currently running. So you cannot edit anything. So if you want to edit that file, then you have to run a command. What command? See, systemctl status nginx. Status means it will show it is started or stopped. So you have to write here start or stop. So if you want to stop, then we'll go now. Here is also one issue. Now we have logged in through authentication file, and also while installing Nginx server, we haven't set any user for Nginx. So when we install here in something in here, right? So what happens? We have to set a user for this, and we have to set a password for that. So it's asking me password to stop the server. Because why? If I'll not set that user and password, anyone will come to my server and stop my server. So that's why it's not letting me stop the server. I have not set the user. So you have to set the user for that. I think class is exceeding 3 hours. Okay. Can continue tomorrow, right? Because class is exceeding.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You can practice till here. We'll see how to manage this server also. Okay. So I'm telling this all these things extra. It's not there. Like in fundamental, the exercise is still only running this Nginx server. But why I'm telling you extra? Because so that from now only you learn Linux. So that when we go to DevOps side, you know how to access Linux server or Linux machine. That's why I'm telling you all this, like how to access file and all. So no worries, you can practice till here and we can then continue from tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.